All right, welcome to video number 2 in lesson 23, absolute and relative change. We are going to kind of focus on dealing with percents here in this second video. And we start on page 208 with this little table in the middle. And this kind of gives you an idea when you think about these words. It's the keys to setting up your proportions or your equations when you go to solve these. So you've got to be looking at the key words. So when I look at the left side of this table, I see 10% less than. Well, when you remember, 100% is like our reference because 100% is everything. So if I say 10% less than means less or under. So what's 10% under 100? Well, 10, so you would take 100 minus 10, and that's how we get the 90. So 20% lower, well, we would take 100 minus the 20, and we'd get 80. 25% decrease, 75. 30% lower than, 70. 60% less than, 40. So when you think about these things, these numbers will help you set up your formulas. And on the right side, we're thinking now additional or more than 100s. But again, 100 is our reference. So if you say 10% more than, we have our 100 plus 10, and that's how they get 110. 30% is 100 plus 30. So that's where we get our 130. 18% greater, 118. 50% increase, 150. 100% increase, well, that's the 100 plus 100, and we are at 200%. So these words are definitely helpful when it comes to setting up our problems. And I will set up the majority of these problems as proportions because that's how we do it in our class. And some of them I think I do talk about in terms of an equation, but not too many of them. I will kind of stick to the proportion way in order to be consistent as we go. So when we're looking at these, let's move down to number 1. And I know that they've set number 1 up for you, but I want to talk through it. So rental rates in Gary are 25% more than rental rates in Muncie, where they are $635. So I think it's important to really understand what we're talking about. So we are talking about Gary, and we are talking about Muncie. So when I'm setting up my proportion, everything on the top will be Gary, and everything on the bottom will be Muncie. So when we look at our key words, 25% more than. And we just talked about, right, that's 125% because 100 is my reference. So rental rates in Gary are, so Gary is the one that is 25% more, so Gary's going to be 125, where Muncie is the reference at 100. Okay, so let's get back to our problem here. Rental rates in Gary are 25% more than rental rates in Muncie. Where? So Muncie, where they are $635. So Muncie is where they are $635. Well, that means my big old X goes in the top. So you kind of got to see what they give you and build off of that. So now I can use my proportions of cross multiplying. So 100X equals 125 times 635. So 100X equals 79,375. Divide both sides by 100 to get X by itself, and X equals 793.75. And notice we're talking about money because we're talking about rental rates. So the rental rates in Gary are $793.75. All right, I would like you to just try number 2. Hit pause, try number 2, and then let's see what we can do. Okay, so in number 2, we are comparing Lafayette and Bloomington. Okay, so 15% less. Well, remember that's 100 minus 15. Goodness, that's horrible looking. And that gives me 85. So Lafayette is the 85 compared to Bloomington's 100% reference. And then it says Bloomington's population, which is 82,000. So Bloomington is the 82,000. Lafayette is what we're missing. So to cross multiply, I get 100X equals 85 times 82,000 is going to give me 6,970,000. Sorry, I couldn't read my handwriting in my book there. Divide both sides by 100, and Lafayette's population is 69,700. Okay. All right, moving on to page 209 is where we're at now. I would like you to hit pause and try to do as many of these as you can. If you get stuck on one, just skip it, but really try to do 3 through 8, and then come back and work. I'm going to talk through all of them, but I really want you to try them first because that'll see kind of how much you understand. And it's okay to watch 1 or 2 if you get stuck and then go back and try the rest. So hit pause whenever you need to. All right, and number 3, Jerry's currently earning $20 an hour at his job, and he's going to get a 15% increase. So 15% increase, that means 15% more than 100%. So we're going to have 115 over 100. So the 100%, right, that's what he's earning now. The 115 is his increase. So if we know that he is currently earning $20, then the X goes on top in terms of his new salary. So if we cross multiply, I'm going to have 100x equals 2,300. Divide both sides by 100. And Jerry's new money, right, his new hourly rate is $23 an hour. And number 4, the local Meals on Wheels currently has 120 residents for whom they provide daily hot meals. They're going to have an increase of 30%. Increase means more. So this is what they will have. 100 is what they now have. So if they currently have 120, so that's now. X goes on top. Again, we cross multiply. So 100x is going to give me 130 times 120 is 15,600. I divide both sides by 100, and X equals 156 daily hot meals for next year. Number 5, the number of hardwired residential phone lines is going to decrease by 18%. So that's the 100 minus 18. So we're going to have 82, and the reference is 100. So this is what we have now. This is what we will have. So there were 1.8 hard this year. So right now we have 1.8, and remember that's in millions. So when I cross multiply, I will get 100x equals 82 times 1.8 is 147.6. So when I divide both sides by 100, I can say there will be 1.476 million next year. Right? So make sure you add that word million because I chopped it off when I did my proportion. And that's okay as long as you're going to be consistent. Millions on the bottom means millions on the top. Number 6, a flat screen TV is on sale for 40% off. Okay, if it's on sale for 40% off, that means 100 minus 40, that means it's 60% on. So 60 over 100, this is what it is now. Well, now is the 100%. I want to know when it's 60% on or 40% off. So again, I cross multiply. 100x is going to give me 27,000. I divide both sides by 100. And x is going to give me $270 for my TV. Number 7, my gross pay is $2,300, and you have 22% taken out in taxes. So if we take out 22%, that means 78% is still here. So 78% is left after taxes. Well, the gross pay is before taxes. So that goes on the bottom. What's left on top? So when I cross multiply, I get 100x equals 78 times 2,300 is 179,400. Divide both sides by 100. And X is $1,794. So that's what is left after taxes. And number 8. Okay, so Target is having a 60% off blowout sale. Okay, if it's 60% off, that means it's 40% on. So, first things first, what is the total of this of the items before the discount? And that right now the total is $160. So if it's 40% on, right? Because it's 60% off. And before it's 160, what is it going to be after? So if I cross multiply, I get 100x equals 6,400, and that means x is $64. So that is the price that I'm going to pay for these items after the sale. But, hark, don't forget, sales tax is 7%. So, and that's in addition to the items. So 107% is after taxes. So $64 is before taxes. How much is after taxes? So when I cross multiply, I'm going to get a different color, and I'm going to get 100x equals 6,848. So when I divide both sides by 100, x is $68.48. I apologize for that horrible writing right there. 68.48. So that is the price after the discount, after taxes. So number 8 is a two-part problem, right? You first have to find the price with the discount and then the price with sales tax. Let's go ahead and move on to number 9. Rental rates in Fort Wayne are $646, which is 15.5% less than the rental rates in Indianapolis. Okay, now for a problem like this, I like to know what I'm talking about. So I've got Fort Wayne and I've got Indy. And I know that Fort Wayne is 15.5% less. So my reference is 100, and I'm going to subtract 15.5, and I get 84.5, and knowing that our other one has to be 100. Now, in Fort Wayne, the rates are $646. So we then cross multiply, divide, because I'm out of room. In Indianapolis, they are, okay, forget that dollar sign there, $764.50. Okay, let's look at number 10, South Bend and Muncie. Okay, so let's deal with South Bend and Muncie. South Bend, Muncie. Well, South Bend has a population of 100,800. So why did I write that so big? 100,800. I don't know the population of Muncie. So then when we talk about the percentages, South Bend is 44% more. So that's going to be 144 because it's more than the reference. And that will allow us to say 144x equals 1008000, divide by 144, and we actually end up with a population of 70,000. Okay, dividing both sides by 144. Number 11. Oh, by the way, if you haven't tried any of these, go ahead and hit pause and try the rest of page 210 and 211, and then come back and check out the work with them, because I think that will help. All right, we are now talking about Roxanne and Stuart. Roxanne drives 300 miles a week. All right, we don't know Stuart's mileage. Stuart says that is 50% more than what he drives. So this is 50% more. So that means that is 150% in relation to his 100. So when I cross multiply, I get 150x equals 30,000. Divide both sides by 150, and he drives 200 miles. Okay, so you've got to be careful when you're talking about that. That is 50% more than what he drives, because which one is 150, which one is 100 makes a big difference. Okay. Number 12, Johnny thinks 300 miles is 50% less than what he drives weekly. What is Johnny's? Okay, so now we're comparing Johnny to Roxanne, because again, Roxanne is driving the 300 miles. We don't know about Johnny, but Johnny thinks 300 is, so again, we're talking about this line down here, is 50% less. So now this is going to be 50 in comparison to his 100, because it's 50% less. So now when I cross multiply, I get 50x equals 30,000, and Johnny drives approximately 600 miles. So it's a big difference of where you put your x's and what numbers you're using. 13, Pete and Elaine. I'm going to start there. Pete and Elaine. Oops. Pete paid $350 for an iPad. Well, he paid $350. What did Elaine pay? We don't know. So let's talk about the percentages. Elaine claims that was, so what Pete paid, that line is 20% more. So that means we have 20% more than the reference. So now when I cross multiply, I get 120x equals 35,000. Divide both sides by 120. And Elaine paid, rounded to the nearest penny, $291.67 for her Samsung tablet, according to this problem. 14. Jane and Barb. Well, let's Jane, Barb. Jane spent $18 on lunch. We don't know what Barb spent. Which is, so Jane is 25% more. So that's going to be the 125, and Barb is going to be our reference. So now we can say, okay, let's cross multiply. 125x equals 1800. Divide both sides by 125, and we end up with Barb's lunch being $14.40. All right, number 15. You paid $280 for a laptop, which was 30% off. How much was the laptop prior to the sale? Okay, so we've got the regular price and the sale. Okay, so we know you paid $280, and that was on sale. We don't know the regular price. It was 30% off. Okay, 30% off means less than 100. So it was at 70, well, the regular price is 100%. So when you do it this way, right, let me cross multiply, 70x is 28,000. Divide both sides by 70, and the original price for this laptop was $400. Moving on to number 16, the take-home pay. Your take-home pay is $1,443, 22% with withheld taxes. What was the gross pay? Okay, so we've got before taxes and we've got after taxes. After taxes, you had $1,443. That was 22% less than what you grossed. So that was 78. We know that you grossed 100%. We don't know what that was. So cross multiply. 78x equals 144,300. Divide both sides by 78, and you grossed $1,850. 17. The Hunger Games: Catching Fire earned $425 million at the box office. That is 32% more than Fast and the Furious 6. Estimate how much Fast and Furious 6 made at the box office in 2013. Now, I'm going to kind of ignore million for right now and just know that my answer for Fast and the Furious is also going to be in the millions. So, I'm talking about the Hunger Games compared to the Fast and the Furious. So we know that the Hunger Games earned $425 million, and we are checking out how much the Fast and the Furious made. So now when we look at 30, it says that is, so we're talking about the Hunger Games, is 32% more. So that's 132 compared to the reference of 100. So when I cross multiply, 132x equals 42,500. When I divide both sides by 132, Fast and the Furious 6 grossed $321.97 million. Do not forget the million because we scratched that from the beginning. Okay. And number 18, the bill for dinner was $80.25 after the 7% tax. What was the bill before tax? Okay, so again, we're talking about after tax and before tax. So after tax, it was $80.25. We don't know how much it was before. After the 7% sales tax, so here it was 7% taxed. And we know that tax is in addition to your meal, so that would be 107 compared to the reference of 100. So I end up with 107x equals 8,025. Divide both sides by 107, and my bill before taxes was $75. All right, that is the end of video number 2 for lesson 23, dealing with percent change. Thank you.